There's a specific kind of loneliness that doesn't have a name. It's not the loneliness of being alone. It's the loneliness of sitting at a table full of people who share your blood, the plates cleared, the laughter tapering off, and feeling like a stranger in a country whose language you almost speak. You've always noticed things other people seem to move through without seeing. You've watched the way they look at each other, the inside jokes you were never let into, the quiet consensus that something about you is just off. And the worst part? A piece of you started to believe them. If you know that feeling, if something in your chest just shifted, stay with me. Because what happened to you was not an accident, and it was not your fault. Psychology has a name for you, the identified patient. It sounds clinical, cold even, but the meaning is devastating in its honesty. In a family system under stress, a failing marriage, a buried secret, an addiction no one will name, someone tends to absorb the pressure. The system needs a lightning rod. And so, almost always without anyone consciously choosing it, one person gets selected to be the problem. Not because they are the problem, but because someone has to be. You remember being the one they called when things fell apart, and somehow also the one they blamed when things did. The family can now unite around fixing you, criticizing you, worrying about you. And in doing so, they often never have to look at what's actually broken. You weren't the black sheep because you were bad. You were the black sheep because you were needed. In the cruelest way a person can be needed. Here's what no one told you about the silent treatment, the exclusion, the whispered conversations that stopped when you walked in. Across multiple neuroimaging studies, researchers have consistently found that social rejection activates many of the same neural pathways as physical pain. The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the region that fires when you break a bone, shows measurable activation when your family makes you invisible. Your brain is not being dramatic. It processed exclusion as a survival threat, because evolutionarily, separation from the tribe was a death sentence. The hurt you carry in your body is not weakness. It is ancient, biological, and entirely real. In 1988, psychologists Marcus Iserbit and Lyons documented something that explained your entire childhood in a single finding. It's called the black sheep effect. And here's the part most people never sit with long enough to understand. Groups, families, communities, institutions tend to judge their own rule breakers more harshly than they judge outsiders. Not slightly more harshly, significantly, categorically. Why? Because you didn't just deviate from the rules. You threatened the story the family tells about itself. Your very existence, your questions, your honesty, your refusal to pretend, was a mirror they didn't want to look into. So they didn't silence you because you were wrong. They silenced you because you were right. Let me tell you something about black wool. It cannot be dyed. In the wool trade of the 18th century, that made it worthless to merchants because it couldn't be colored to match what the market demanded. Think about that. The black sheep's only crime was being impossible to manipulate. Research on family systems suggests that the black sheep is often the most likely member to seek therapy, to break cycles, to build something entirely their own. In many cases, they become the innovators, the disruptors, the ones who look at a broken system and say, "I will not pass this down." The golden child gets the praise. But research also points to what comes with it: the anxiety, the perfectionism, the hollow identity built on approval they can never stop performing for. You got the exile, but exile has a strange gift buried inside it. When you can no longer earn belonging from the family, you stop performing. And when you stop performing, something extraordinary becomes possible. You get to find out who you actually are. Most people never get that chance. They die still performing a role that was written for them before they were old enough to object. So here's the one thing I want you to do today. Write down one truth you've always known about your family. One you were told made you too sensitive, too dramatic, imagining things. Just write it. For yourself. No one has to see it. Because healing doesn't begin when the family finally believes you. It begins the moment you do. The black sheep was never the problem. They were the only one awake enough to feel it. If this reached something in you, subscribe and share it with the person in your life who was always called too much. They've been waiting a long time to hear this.